Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out my show. I really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. I just finished a long conversation with Alivea Goncalves. She, of course, is Kaylee Goncalves' sister. Kaylee Goncalves is one of the victims from the Idaho murders. And I wanted to talk to Alivea because I knew that she just recently had a meeting with prosecutors from her sister's case and also police trying to find out information about exactly what happened. She wanted to know pretty much everything. And so in this conversation, I talked to Alivea about that meeting, what that was like for her. You can imagine how emotional it was. And also just how she's doing right now. I mean, I've always had such respect for her and for her parents. I've known them since the beginning of this whole nightmare for them. So I want to share this conversation with you, and I want you guys to hear what Alivea had to say. Olivia, it's good to see you as always. Thank you for talking with me. I really appreciate it. I think a lot of people want to know how you're doing. A lot of people haven't really heard from you since right after the sentencing and your just really impactful victim impact statement, it's almost been 3 months now. So I just wanted to start off asking sort of like how you're doing.
Yeah, it's always good to see you too. I think it's hard every single year when the seasons start changing and it starts getting colder. It's like your body remembers. So the seasons changing is hard. Then the daylight savings is really, really hard. And then kind of inching up to that date. And it was just a really, really heavy year and kind of took a lot emotionally from us because it was a lot of preparatory work to get to trial, just for it to go to plea deal so quickly. And then everything after that just happened, so fast. So there's a little bit of a whiplash aspect. And then just a lot of, almost the come down from this, emotional hardening I almost had to do to kind of prepare myself for trial. But overall, we're doing okay. We've taken some next steps. Kaylee and Maddie are in their forever urns now, which was a huge step that we hadn't been able to do before. And we're finally able to kind of try to get some of those answers that we've been craving and put together, this picture, this story in our minds, and hopefully, be able to make some sense of what happened because we were locked out of that information for so long.
Yeah, and I had dinner with your parents the other night when I was in Idaho, and they mentioned to me, "Oh, Olivia is going to meet with the prosecutor." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And they were like, "Yeah, she's going by herself." I'm like, "She's going by herself? Like that's so intense." So I know you flew to Idaho. I mean, what was that like?
Yeah, so that was October 6th. And I, uh, I, I love my parents, but I am an adult too. Uh, and it's difficult for me to kind of be a grieving sister in the room with them because I let their grief overshadow mine, right? They're grieving parents. They lost a daughter. I hope to God I never know what that feels like. But sometimes it makes it difficult for me to find a place in the room. So it was important for me to be able to, um, kind of be able to dictate and to get answers that I'm really looking for. Not help my dad or help my mom or play this like weird median that I would often play in these prosecutor meetings. So yeah, I met with members of the prosecution team and a member of the Moscow Police Department who was an investigator, as well as the Idaho State Police, an investigator from the Idaho State Police.
And so you just went by yourself?
Yeah, sorry, I'm shaking. Yeah, I went by myself. I had my attorney there. She's a local Latah attorney, and who was just kind of helping me with the documents as they're coming out to be able to make sure that we all get those. But yeah, it was a really traumatizing meeting. But it was a necessary step for me to be able to uh, basically be hurt behind closed doors so that I could manage my expectations going forward. Uh, yeah, I'm not sure if I totally answered you there. I'm sorry.
No, no, you did. So is it just, I'm just trying to like, I guess visualize it. Do you just go into like a conference room and it's you and then Bill Thompson and Idaho State Police just all sitting there basically?
Yeah, yeah. So it was a conference room at the Idaho State Police District 2 quarters in Lewiston, Idaho. I drove down early in the morning from my parents' house in Rathdrum, Idaho, and there's me on one side of the table and them on the other. And I really wanted it to be uh, an open-ended conversation where the investigators were kind of able to provide me how it kind of unfolded for them because I've never really gotten their opinions. I've never really heard their thoughts on it. I've never, uh, you know, really humanized them in a way to understand what it looked like for them because this was their life day in and day out for 7 weeks and then after. And yeah, it was nice to hear that real human aspect of them and kind of what it looked like from the inside out because I had only had the perspective of being on the outside.
Were you able to get any of your questions answered?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of the questions that I had were answered. Um, doesn't mean that more won't come up as more comes out, but uh, I was very satisfied at the end of the meeting with, I mean, as satisfied as you can be. We're not talking about a recipe here. At the end of the day, it's still murder, and it's still the death of my sister. Um, so there's not really positivity there, and I don't even want to say that there's closure, but I do think that it helped me immensely to be able to have these pieces put together for me to help me make sense and understand what happened in my head.
Were they able to tell you any more about, I guess like one of the questions I've always just still had and still think about is like motive and why those kids, why that house? Like, were there any, I don't want to say theories, but did they have any more insight into that?
So not necessarily, and maybe it's because the why has never it's never kept me up at night. I've never cared about the why. So that wasn't really something that I pushed them for. I will say when you look at the cast data and the 23 different occasions that he was at the house, they don't all line up with just one person. So it's not like he was only ever there when Kaylee was. They're very random and they're very sporadic, which to me made more sense because I was always confused when they said someone was targeted, then maybe the house was targeted, then no, someone was targeted. And it almost made more sense to me knowing this, thinking maybe it really was the location, right? Maybe it really was more of a non-specific that became a specific because we know that he went directly to the third floor. But maybe it was more so just, a vantage point looking out, inside from the out that he found particularly interesting or something. But again, that why it's never bothered me. For me, I've always known that the why would never make sense.
So what were you what were you hoping to get out of the meeting, I guess? Like, was there something specific?
Yeah, so there was a couple things. I wanted to take a look at the complete surveillance footage that was put together that showed his movements from a little after 3 a.m. to 4:20, 4:30. And that's extremely comprehensive when you see that as a full picture of the car being here, then here, then here, tracking those movements. I wanted to see the cast report and these 23 different occasions. When did they start? When did they stop? Are we talking about, he was outside for 4 minutes or are we talking about he was outside for 4 hours? Um, And then something that really, really was something that was difficult for me to process was the thought of the crime scene photos leaking. So we know that there is a leak somewhere. I think it's still currently being investigated. And I basically left it up to them. And I told them, if you're confident that these photos are safe, I don't need to see anything. But if you think that there's a chance that they will leak, let me hurt myself with them right here, right now, so that I can, continue to function. Because it's really, really difficult for me, particularly, to live and maneuver in a world when I know that there's information out there that could hurt me that I just don't have access to. So those were my three main pieces of information that I was wanting to look at.
So what did they say to you when you said, if you think there's a chance that these photos would leak, I want to see them. Like what did they say?
I don't think that with certainty they could say that they wouldn't leak. So ultimately, I did wind up viewing one photo of the scene of Maddie's bedroom. Maddie was completely redacted. Um, they offered more, but I truly didn't need to see more than the one. Yeah. And it was ultimately Bill Thompson who provided that piece of saying that he couldn't guarantee that they wouldn't leak, because he's not sure exactly who from the defense's side had access to them. So if he was the only one and his team, he would have been very, very confident that they'd never get out. But that unknown made him hesitant to, have the confidence that they wouldn't, leak eventually. Not that I think he's saying that they will leak. I think just in an overabundance of caution, especially considering I was there in that moment, ready, had prepared myself to see this. Um, so, so yeah.
I guess I'm just keep thinking about you like alone there. I'm so used to seeing you with your family. But I know there's certain things, I mean, I can't relate to this in any way. Like I can't even imagine, but there are like certain things in life I feel like you just want to do alone. Like that you need to process alone just as like a single human being. You know what I mean? Like, was it like that kind of a thing?
Yeah, and I mean, my mom and dad won't even look at the photos that the city of Moscow released, months ago. That batch of 182. So we are just very, very different in that aspect where I kind of play this role with my mom mainly, where I can take the information and I can process it, and then she gets to come to me and just kind of pick what she wants to hear about. Um, and so, in that capacity, uh, I guess I kind of need to have that information to be able to help, my mom or my sisters or my, brother or anything if they ever need it. Like my understanding of the full picture as as completely as I could make it. And I guess that I'd rather be the one that is hurt by it so that I can, spare them from that while still being like a source of truth about it. I'm never going to lead them astray or, but just be able to give specific details that they want to hear about and nothing more, nothing less.
What was it like with Bill Thompson? Just because I know, you've obviously been frustrated with the prosecution in the past and we're not pleased with the way things sort of ended with with the plea deal. Um, what was it like, sitting at a table with him?
Um, I have no bad blood with Bill Thompson. I do truly think that he did his best. And I think in his heart, he thought what he was doing was the most good for the most amount of people who were affected by this. Um, I think he knew that it would hurt us to take a plea deal, but I think that he deemed that a necessary evil in order to provide good for, a lot of people were affected by this. We can't just think about the families of the four. We're also talking about, witnesses. We're also talking about, you know, court staff, jurors. We're changing jurors' lives by having to show them this information. So I truly think that he did what he thought was best. It wasn't good enough for us, but I'm not really sure that anything would have ever been good enough for us without getting him back. So he was fairly quiet, but it wasn't awkward or anything. I think that he has eventually come around to terms to kind of respect that, we might just kind of be abrasive, but we're not heartless, we're not mean. And, I wasn't there to pick a fight by any means.
So when you left, like, what did that feel like?
Um, so initially it felt, I felt a little bit of relief. I think just because it was done and it had kind of been something that I had, once again, mentally prepared for, right? And then you get to the other side of it, and now, it's done and it's over, and you're excited to move on to, the next, okay? Forward movement, but fairly quickly. Um, After this one, in the next, day or two, you're really just hit with the weight and the gravity, um, and you're left with, me personally, I was left with more questions that I know don't have answers. Like, for example, like, you know, why? And not why in the motive sense, but like what? Like, what were you even thinking? And I know that that sounds so small, um, but there again, like very specific questions that I know don't have answers. Um, and I'm kind of sitting here 10 days later, still greatly struggling with, the full weight of what Kaylee, just Kaylee. I didn't see anyone else, but just Kaylee had to go through.
Yeah, and I think just from what I know of you, like you're just always searching for answers. Like you don't really give up. Like you're just like you keep going. You know what I mean? I mean, your dad is like that too. So maybe finding out that you're never going to get certain answers, like I would imagine that must have been hard, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely hard, um, especially when I am a very answer based person, right? I have this question. 99% of the time, I can get the answer. It might take some work, but I can get there. It's difficult knowing that there's a lot of really painful unknowns, and you either have to let them go, which I'm never going to do, or you have to keep digging for more information until my brain can process, or create an inference to be able to answer those questions for me.
Yeah. Would you, I mean, a lot of the questions I think, you know, the killer is the only one who knows. Like, would you ever want information from him?
Not in like the way of like, a book, or not in the way of like him doing like, a news interview or anything like that. Um, so I guess the answer then is no, because he doesn't really have many other options. I will continue to go back to, I think that a full confession should have been included as an agreement or a condition of the plea agreement. Um, and um, that is something that in this case could have happened, and I believe should have happened, but it's just one of those that we have to let go. We can't go back. So yeah, I think a lot of those answers would have been great, but I don't think that the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah. And I know there was a gag order and all sorts of rules. But it also makes me wonder, like, if you could have had this sort of relationship with the prosecutor and the police earlier on and these kinds of conversations, would you have understood each other better, you know,
Oh,
before all
absolutely.
this came to an end? You know, would it probably been nice to have that during?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and I think that in, those last 8, 9 months leading up to trial, um, I think we were getting there finally. But yeah, it's difficult when the conversation's always the same and it's always us frustrated with the lack of information, us trying to make sense of it, them sticking to the gag order, getting frustrated that we're still pushing it, that we're still asking these questions, and the material is inherently frustrating, right? But so it takes a while to get to a point where you know I understand Bill Thompson a little bit more, and maybe he understands me a little bit more. It would have been great if from the beginning there wasn't the gag order, or there was some way that we could have had more information or candid conversation throughout with them. But that's just not how this cookie crumbled for us.
Yeah. Something else I was thinking about, because I don't think I've talked to you since this stuff came out, with Washington State University, like there were all these, public reports that are out now of women who were afraid of Brian Kohberger. You know, people who worked with him at the university, like other, doctoral students, that kind of thing. And I talked to like a couple of people before, and I talked to some people in Pennsylvania, women who had stories about him, but I guess I didn't realize how widespread it was until all of those reports were released. Like I had no idea that it was so many women. Did that come as a surprise to you too?
Yeah, yeah. It didn't come as a surprise to me necessarily that he wasn't well liked or that he did not integrate well. But it came as a surprise to me to hear that there were so many formal complaints. Because for me, my next question when I see that is, damn, and how many informal complaints were there? Right? How many, women or men, it seems like specifically more geared towards women just had a bad experience and just didn't report it, because that happens way more often than an actual formal report. So it's actually insane that his behavior was so comically bad that he couldn't even get through a month of trying to pretend to be like a normal human being without being wildly inappropriate and offensive, and literally just giving the vibe like how many people in those documents said that he would spatially trap them. That's not a normal behavior. How many people, what was the term that they used when they would say he would like basically held them hostage in a
Mhm.
conversation? Like these aren't normal behaviors. And like he couldn't even fake it for a month. Like, what a joke, dude. Like, yikes.
Well, I was just thinking about too, like the women who thought they saw him outside their like apartments and stuff. I mean, like that's really scary.
Right. Where it's like, and it sucks because this is a little weird, but like the law is so written that there's not much proactively that you can do. Everything is reactive, right? So those people could have gone to the police and said, I think that, defendant or, inmate 163214 was outside my apartment last night. And I guarantee you, nothing would have happened to him. Even if they had investigated him, even if they had questioned him, nothing would have happened to him because it's not illegal to stand outside someone's house, right? Like, so just so awful that the laws are written, especially around stalking, and especially around, creepy behavior, that they're so reactive instead of being proactive. Um, yeah, just insane to me that it takes something physical happening before honestly, even a formal police report can never even be made.
Yeah, and all those reports that came out, did they give you, when you had your meeting, did they give you any indication? Like, is there a lot more to come, or is it sort of like, most of everything's been released at this point, or do you sort of have to be on guard for more?
Yeah, I think that there's still quite a bit more. So I know from the city of Moscow that they said it's going to be months before everything comes out. I mean, at the pace that the courts are going, it's going to be years. I guess we're sitting 3 months out and we've gotten what, 17 documents? So that's a very, very slow snail pace there. We haven't really seen anything out of Pennsylvania. We haven't seen anything out of the FBI. So I know that there's still more. Um, I don't know how substantial that more is going to be or not.
What did you think about, so, yeah, you mentioned like stuff slowly coming out and the judge is unsealing documents too. And some of the more recent ones were like the witness lists for the defense and the prosecution. And there's a bunch of headlines about this. People have written about it, but Brian Kohberger's sister was on the prosecution list. Um, I mean, did that surprise you? Do you know did they say anything about that? Like what she may have been, I don't know why that was.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Somewhere along the line, I asked about it, and this was before the gag order was even lifted, and I didn't ask for specifics, but they didn't give me her name at the time. Um, just that it was in regards to one of the sisters having knowledge or having seen him with the weapon itself, because the knife that he bought on his parents' Amazon account. So that doesn't really surprise me, especially because I didn't really see anywhere that the defense was trying to argue that he didn't own the knife, that he didn't purchase it. They tried to say that his click history shouldn't be included because, getting off track, I apologize.
No,
Um, but it didn't really surprise me seeing her on that list.
yeah, I guess it didn't surprise me either. I wondered if they were going to use, her to say like, oh, because I think they shared an Amazon account. So like maybe to narrow down, like you're not the one who ordered these things, to kind of like process of elimination kind of thing. But I'm not really sure.
And I mean, I'll also even say too, I'm not even sure that that was entirely needed, because when he purchased the knife, what he actually did is on his debit card, he purchased a gift card, I think for $120. He immediately turned around, added the gift card to his parents' Amazon account. He bought the K-bar knife with the sheath, the sharpener, and a bunch of vegan supplements. At the time that he was arrested, when they seized his car, the same exact vegan supplements that he purchased on Amazon with the gift card in the exact same order as a K-bar knife were in the trunk of his car. So,
No.
yes, well, it's stronger to have an eyewitness that says, I saw him physically hold it. And I'm not saying that's what she would have testified to, but while I get that that's stronger, I don't even think it was needed.
And just my last thing, and this might still be too fresh to talk about, but I just like I always think I started thinking about it when you gave your victim impact statement. And just with all the getting to know your parents and feeling like I know Kaylee in a way just through you guys and all of the videos and photos. Um, like I just always want I don't know, I see such you've already made such a difference in the world, and I just wonder, have you thought more about like how you want Kaylee's legacy to live on, what part you'll play in that? Like, and I know that takes time, but I didn't know if there was something in particular that you were sort of thinking about at this point.
Yeah, so I got about 1,000 ideas. But my mom and I have some awesome women behind us. And they've really been kind of rallying around us, trying to help us sort through a lot of these thoughts. And something that is really, really important to both me and my mom is that, oh, I apologize. Kaylee would have done a lot of really, really good things in the world. And that's just a fact. And she would have provided a lot more light to this world than she ever took. So the way I see it is there's an imbalance of the scales because she didn't get to give that light in the way that I know she would have. So my mom and I have kind of thought about creating something where we can give back specifically right now to the community that helped raise Kaylee, right? Helped make her who she was, in a way to kind of restore that balance of light, right? There will never be a replacement for Kaylee. And anything we ever do will pale in comparison to what she is capable of. But I think we got to try, I think that we got to try to kind of right that injustice that happened, not to us necessarily, but to the world who would have experienced, what she had to give to it. And in a way of, you know, just kind of getting up and doing our best. So we're still really sorting through those details there. Sorry. And I'm excited to get there, but I'm also really excited at the prospect of having the time to do it and be really, really thoughtful about it. And then for me, something that's I need to do for me, and I've been doing it for a while now, is basically put forth everything, all of the documentation, all of the photos, all of the anyone who will ever talk to me, everything, in a central database, and that is where, for me, Kaylee gets to live, right? Like that is me collecting all of these pieces of this part of her story in one place and bringing her home. And it's something that is probably going to take me a really, really long time, but I'm okay with that because I know at the end when I sit back, this will be, almost like an encyclopedia of sorts that just has, all of the answers and all of the pieces and hopefully enough pieces to the point where, it all comes together and it all makes sense in my head one day.
You mean in terms of the murders?
Yeah, in terms of, understanding what was the beginning of the end, you know, um, in terms of understanding the the gravity and the weight of what happened, because you can't shy away from it, right? We shy away from it and we sugarcoat it and we take the bits and pieces of it that are digestible and we feed them to the public. But no one actually understands how sick this guy is. And it's not my job to shy away from it because Kaylee had to live it. The least I can do is be able to understand it for her, to be able to be, an earthside person that, you know, can grasp and understand, what she went through and what she endured.
So you want to get the story of what really happened, basically, and get it all kind of in one place.
Everything,
Instead of
everything.
the bits and pieces that we kind of have.
Yeah, and I'm also really passionate about this because there's still to this day so many conspiracies online. It's disgusting, right? And if I'm just being frank with you as my friend, I'm so sick of it. Like, I'm so sick of it, I could puke. So, for me to be able to put myself in a position where, you know, maybe I don't share, hey, how this is how wrong you are, XYZ, but to have that, be armed with that knowledge of here's why this doesn't work. Think, 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 think. Nope, you're wrong here. Nope, you're wrong here. I think it'd be so valuable. And if I could ever get to a point where, I could create something that's almost like a timepiece capsule collection where 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the line, people are going to want to know what happened, right?
Mm.
And they wouldn't have lived through this. Let me be the first source that tells them what happened to my sisters so that they're not going to 4chan or to Reddit or to TikTok and say, "Oh my gosh, did you ever hear about the tunnels? Oh my God, did you hear it was a cover up? It was a frame job." Like, it feels so wrong to have so many of those things exist and be free for consumption and so widely consumed. Um, I can't even really articulate how it makes you feel being on the other side of it. Like, but one day, if I could ever get there, it's the key to all this. If I could ever get anywhere, is yeah, being able to be the source of truth, the Encyclopedia Brown on everything from A to Z. And if you stick along with me and you know you hold hands with me, maybe at the end you can understand too.
Yeah. I just think for some of those people with the conspiracy theories, like, and I've seen it with other cases, I mean, it's like a weird, it's almost like a hobby. Like, I don't think, no matter what anybody said, I mean, Brian Kohberger confessed. Like, I mean, the man confessed and pled
Mm.
guilty.
Well, they
I
say they
mean,
did it
what
to like
more could you, yeah, I don't think there's anything anyone can say to these people. I really don't.
my right. I'll talk to anyone. I'll argue with anyone. I will listen to anyone. But my sticking point is I need three facts that we can agree on, right? Like, if we can't agree on three facts, we have no grounds for this conversation. Because if you believe that everything is a cover up and he was frank and this and that and oh well the DNA wasn't this, if we can't agree on just one single, well, for me, three single sources of truth, then I don't know how to tell you this, but you're a lost cause. Like, I don't know how to tell you this, but call your therapist. Like, I'm sorry, I know it's mean, but like, that's genuinely how I feel.
I know. I wish you just didn't have to see that stuff, though. I know it's impossible, but it's like it makes me sad that you have to see it. Like I wish you just could be blocked from it?
And here's like, I don't have to see it, right? No one's forcing me on social media. No one's forcing me to, read these articles or anything like that. Um, but I've kind of gotten to a point where personally, like, I'm just done being quiet about it. Like, I think that silence in some cases can be a form of complicity, and I don't want to fall into that category. So it's a really hard balance to find where it's like, are you salvageable? Like, are you a salvageable conspiracy theorist who just has genuine questions? Because a lot of it is confusing, and a lot of the answers have been weird little trickle downs, and no one's kind of stood up behind the mic to take accountability and to say, no, 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 here, let me help explain this, right? So I get some of those questions. Um, but then, I mean, you really do just run into some loonies. That's the truth.
Yeah, they're out there. They're trust me, I know. So, well, I appreciate you, Olivia. You're an inspiration to a lot of people, me included. So, thank you for all you do, and I know people will be looking to you to see what you do next and how they can help and how they can help Kaylee's name, live on through good, like you said. So just keep us posted.
Yeah, absolutely. When we get there.
Yeah, no, I get it. It takes time. Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you.